Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. It's Duffy here, and oh wait, tonight we're making chicken pot pie, so I've got to change the title here. Give me just a second. There we go. Chicken pot pie. There we go. All right. I have had a very long week, a very busy week, a ton of clients, a ton of other stuff going on. And so I thought to myself, how can I make my life easier? And then it hit me. Destroy my kitchen. Make something big and messy where flour goes everywhere. And that's exactly what we're going to do tonight. So I am going to make some chicken pot pie. Now first, we need to start separately making the crust and the filling. So first thing we need is the pie pan. I think this should be big enough, although we could probably make a slightly larger one. I don't think that's going to be necessary, though, since there's only me to eat it. So let's get started. First things first, we will get the filling simmering, I think. So let's go get a potato. Some corn, some carrots, some mushrooms, mushrooms, and the most important part, the chicken, hence, the chicken pot pie. I am going to have to tie my hair back before we get started, but I'm going to get everything out first, and then I'll take a quick break to do that. Let's see, we got corn, we got potato, we got chicken, we got carrots, we got mushrooms. So, why don't I put this to the side, get out the cutting board, I'll go tie my hair back, and we'll get going. Cutting board. I'll be right back. Hi, Shame, how's it going? Glad to see you there. I'm back, and tonight apparently we're wearing blue. So, let me get this mop of mine tied back, and we'll get cooking. Kitchen hygiene is always an excellent thing to be mindful of. And after you touch anything, be it your hair or your clothes or your face or anything like that, it's always a good idea to wash your hands. Now, let us start with the corn, because that's going to make the chicken pot pie really, really tasty. And I find that the best way to get corn on the cob off of the cob is to just stand it up, get yourself a nice sharp knife. Let me see if I can angle this so you can see it a little better, and just go right down the side. You don't want to get a lot of the cob, but at the same time, you don't want to miss out a lot of corn, and really it's soft enough to, after you cook it, you don't have to worry about getting down in there pretty good. So we'll get our corn going. There we go. There's one. I'll throw that out for the squirrels later. Number two. And I'll try to remember to check chat, which I am not always really good about doing. If they have not shucked your corn properly, be sure to pull off all the corn silk, because coming across a piece of corn silk in food is not the end of the world, but unfortunately it puts people in mind of coming across a hair in food, and the association kind of grosses some people out, so it's better just not to have it in there. You know what? I actually think that's enough corn for the pot pie, because I can eat these other two later, or make some fried corn with them, or yum, something good like that. So what I'm going to do is put all this in a bowl because we're going to have to cook it up later anyway. And we'll start cutting up the potatoes and the onions and the carrots and things like that. What we want to start doing is cooking the things that are going to take longer first. The potatoes, the carrots. Let me go rinse this. There we go. Let me wash my potato, which I assure you is not a euphemism for anything, nor do I know anything that it could be a euphemism for. So, there we go. Rinse my knife too. I'm not too worried about vegetables getting mixed together on a cutting board because that's not really unsanitary. But what you don't want to do is mix vegetables and meat on the same cutting board because that's just horrible. So, let's go actually throw these in a pan. There we go. Give us a sec. Potatoes. I somehow scared you. I'm sorry about that. Is it my head descending into the frame sideways? Lots of people tell me I'm alarming. There we go. Now, if you see any little brown spots, look at here. Like this in your potatoes, see that little kind of brown rotten spot right there? Just pick those out. And there's probably a couple more in here, because those do not really taste good when you cook them. See, here's another one. It's a little rotten spot in the potato. And, you know, if you don't want to waste a whole big chunk of potato, you can just cut off the part with that. Is just make sure you don't get any of it into your food, because it doesn't taste pleasant. And that old adage about one bad apple spoiling the barrel, well, it's true for potatoes too. So let's check these real quick, since I spotted that first one. No, we're good. In a minute. Yeah, that's all good. Now you might notice I'm leaving the skins on the potatoes. There are two kinds of people. There are people that leave the skin on the potatoes, and there are the kind of people that peel potatoes. And those second kind of people are wrong. All right, back to chopping. We're going to get some carrots. These carrots are fine. Just a few of them have been near the open end of the bag, so I'm not going to use them for this dish anyway. And since we're trying to chop up little mini carrots, which is never generally a good idea, you always want to get the larger carrots if you're going to be chopping them fine, because there's not such a pain in the tail to deal with. But in this case, this is all I have, and waste not, want not, so I'm going to chop them up. But to make that easier, you want to take the time to half them first so they don't roll around on you too much. And it's got a little green end on it. Alrighty. You don't want to be holding a circular carrot like this, having it roll around while you're trying to chop it. Also, don't try to chop all 20 of them at once. Just get like 3 or 4 of them and chop those up. And then, you know, get a few more, because what you don't want is to get too many of them, have them everywhere, make a grand and glorious mess, and not get them chopped evenly. Or worse, trying to hold them all together, you end up injuring yourself. Which is never fun. You know, I'm happy to say that I'm pretty decent with knives. and have worked with them a long time. And I don't take any unnecessary risks with them. But every once in a while, everyone slips up, and you do cut yourself, especially like back when I worked at a restaurant. You know, you can occasionally get in a hurry and stop paying attention, and you learn not to do that really quickly. But everyone does it once, and everyone remembers the one time they did it. All right. What do you guys think? A little onion in that for flavor? I think so. Let's get some onion and butter, and then we'll get that simmering down so that those vegetables can be softening up. Then we'll start on the mushrooms, and after we get it kind of going and boiling, I'll start to work on the crust. Be right back. Onion, onion, onion. I have an onion, right? Yeah. Right here. It's the last of my onion. It's the one I used when I was making the Barbados chicken the other day. And this is what's left of it. And remember when I told you if you put an onion face down in a bowl and cover it with foil, it will last a lot longer if you only have half an onion? Well, so it has. Let me clean off my knife here. Let's see. Oh, it's me out of nowhere saying hello to you. Sorry about that. Note to self, I am scary when I greet people. There we go. Don't want the stem. I want these real fine. There we go, fine onions. All right, I'm going to throw some butter in there and get it started. After which we'll start on the chicken. What we're going to do is cook the chicken and the vegetables separately because the potatoes and the carrots have to cook a lot longer than the chicken will. And you don't want the chicken being tough before you have to turn around and stick it in the oven to bake some more. And at the same time, you don't want to get the chicken pot pie out of the oven and bite into it and have a nice crunchy potato in there. So, get your potatoes and carrots done first. Also, pro tip, put butter in the bottom of the pan, not on the top like I just did. Of course, we can fix that real quick. There we go. Butter on the bottom, problem solved. It could probably use a little more, truth be told. So, we're going to put in a little more. Yeah. Okay, now, let me, get a little bit of this chopped up and thrown in there. And then we'll start on the chicken. And tonight we've got chicken thighs because they are tender, they're wonderful, and they make really good chicken pot pie. So we'll just get moving on that. Let me switch out cutting boards real quick. And away we go. We don't need to worry about the mushrooms yet because they cook really fast. So, but we do need to keep an eye on that over there. So while we slice up the chicken, which we will put in this bowl as we get it chopped up, I will keep an eye over there. If you guys see anything weird going on, holler at me. We're just gonna cut the fat off the ends. And that one it'll be a little easier if we just fillet it off the back there. Alright. You know, I forgot when selecting these for a cooking stream that thighs require a little time and energy, which is fine if you guys enjoy watching someone cut up little pieces of chicken. On the other hand, if you're kind of hoping for somebody who cuts to the chase, well, that might not be our thing this evening. But preparing any dish, there's always some work involved. Let's go stir those vegetables real quick. Actually, let's rinse our hand and then stir those vegetables real quick. Yeah, we could use a little water in there, just to keep things from sticking. We could also stand to turn it down a bit. Okay, back to our chicken. Actually, let me check and see. You going back to drawing? Okie dokie. Well, have fun, and if you feel like lurking, you're certainly welcome to, and I'll keep an eye on chat. And I'll be around cooking chicken pot pie. There we go. Now for chicken pot pie, this is about the right size piece of chicken because it's little bite-sized pieces that are not too big to, you know, be unpleasant, but not so small that you can't, like, get a nice little bite of chicken. And with thighs, we're going to want to cook them pretty good before we throw them in there, you know, get them kind of slow simmered because thighs have a lot of fat on them, which is what makes them really good. But you also don't want unpleasantly tough bits, so you want to make sure all that melts down and makes them tender. That said, I am probably not using the right knife for this, but you know what? I do like this knife, and I've gotten so used to it that it's an old friend, and I use it pretty much as an all-purpose knife. I could use a French-style chef's knife for this, or even a fillet knife, which would probably be a good idea. But in this case, I like this Chinese-style cook's knife. Which again, I'm no slouch with. And before I cut my finger off with it in half a second, because I said that. There we go. Also, you may have noticed when I shut up and quit trying to explain what I'm doing and actually just do it, it goes a lot smoother. Which is surprising, because I'm generally good at yammering during whatever activity I'm attempting. There we go. Let me go check that potato and carrot mixture here real quick. Oh yeah, there we go. That's kind of coming along nicely. The steam's cooking it up real good, and we're able to just kind of keep an eye on it while it simmers. Once it gets to a certain point, we'll stick the mushrooms and the corn in with it. Oh, other way. We'll stick the mushrooms and the corn with it, and we'll let them cook down. There's a bone. Do not put bones in your food. I once had the misfortune to be invited to dinner to some very nice people. They were sweet, but they had absolutely no idea how to cook, and they made a big, beautiful looking pot of chicken and dumplings, but they did not debone the chicken before they threw it in, and it was every bite was an adventure. So always kind of keep an eye on your meat when you are cooking, because you want to have a high quality dish, and in order to have a high quality dish, you need to oversee what goes in it. Let's go check on these potatoes. All right. So yeah, those are starting to soften up a little bit and look good. Wait a sec. Yep, there we go. And like I said, as you stir your potatoes and things like that, always keep an eye for maybe a little bad spot you missed or something like that. Pull that out, because why have it in there? I think I am going to save these last two chicken thighs for a different dish. So let me get a Ziploc bag. Well, I'm sure these aren't actually Ziploc brand. They're Kroger brand, but you know what I mean. Sealed and saved for later. I'll stick those in the freezer. Perfect. Let me go throw this away. And I will clean the area thoroughly, because the next thing we are going to be putting here is the flour and things for the crust. And we want a very clean area for that. So the first thing to do is get rid of anything that's had chicken on it. Oh, I forgot to cut up our mushrooms. I'll take care of that in just a second. And actually, it's probably about time to, because this is starting to soften up real nicely. So let me just get this stuff out of the way. We'll cut up our mushrooms, throw them on in, and then we'll get going on the crust. We're going to dirty an extra cutting board tonight, just for our mushrooms. And tonight I have shiitake mushrooms, because I like shiitake mushrooms, and they go well with chicken. Now, as I've explained before, with shiitake mushrooms, always cut off the stem, because it's tough and unpleasant, and why do that to yourself? I kind of like maybe sometimes doing longer slices of them, like this, because sometimes you get a hold of one of those inside a chicken pot pie and it's real nice. So, bigger slices, littler slices, it does not matter. Put what makes you happy in there. Again, cut the stems off, or pull them off. You can pull them off if you like, although some of them get tough and take a chunk out, but that's kind of nice because it takes all of the tough part with it. Of course, sometimes you lose half your mushroom that way, so don't do that. But how many of these you think we ought to put in there? For me, with mushroom, the more the merrier, because I do like mushrooms. Let's see if anybody is in the chat. Nope. There we are. That, see, big chunks of it kind of come off if you pull it out sometimes. So you know, just cut it off as close to the cap as you can, and it is very nice. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, that's what I thought. I had 2 boxes of mushrooms, and one of them was a little older, so we won't be using any mushrooms from that box. There we go. Beautiful. Alright. That ought to do it. Now, you know what? There's only 2 more left. Let's eat them. There's 1. There's 2. All right. Now, we're going to clean up our work area here real quick. That means throwing away the mushroom boxes. That means, here's a trick you can do with your cutting board. You got a bunch of schmutz on your counter that you want to carry to the wastebasket. Hold your cutting board under the lip. Put everything on it. Just swipe everything on, and away you go. Now, sanitation is, again, we are about to put our crust on the counter. Now we'll have a cutting board down, but you know, it's going to be real flat, and just in case anything touches anything, you want your countertop clean. And I'm not even kidding about that. Because, like, see, if this little piece of cellophane, this little piece of plastic wrap, stays on your counter, it can make its way into your food. And you don't want to eat plastic wrap, and you don't want to eat crumbs, and you don't want to eat little pieces of schmutz from 2 weeks ago. The flavor of meals past. So always keep your countertop clean. And always use a cleaner that's food safe. Now, let's actually go give the potatoes a stir. Actually, I'm going to put them in a bigger pot, is what I'm going to do. With a little more butter. Because that one's too small. There we go, much better. Make sure that's clean. And we're going to start on our crust now. So, let's go get some flour. Flour, all purpose. Lay down a cutting board, one of these flat, floppy ones, so that we can just kind of pick up the mess later. Bowl. We put in flour. It doesn't really matter how much, because it's kind of the base for the batter, and as long as you have enough to roll out and cover your pie pan. Stir this around a bit. Now, this is getting to the stage where we can probably just kind of set it aside to simmer for half a second, because we need to start cooking the chicken. It is a chicken pot pie after all. So, boom, a little butter, keep it from sticking. A little salt, because we haven't used any yet. And a little chicken. There we go. Put that where it's not going to touch anything. And wash your hands after you touch the chicken. Now, speaking of things that can cause salmonella, we need an egg. And I bought a lot of them because I want to do another quiche. So, egg, milk, and flour, which is pretty much all you need. So, crack your eggs. I recommend doing it in a separate bowl besides your flour, in case you get a piece of eggshell in there. Because if you get eggshell in your flour, it's harder to get out. Let's go stir this chicken real quick. Spread it out so it can cook a little bit. There we are. Now, add a little milk to your eggs. Let me switch this around so you can see. A little milk to your eggs. A little salt and pepper to your eggs. Let me get that out of your way. Give it a quick little whisk. You don't want it too much, because I mean you're going to be folding it into your flour anyway. Where'd my towel go? There we go. Now here's the fun part. Take your flour, make a little depression in the middle of it with your fist, and just pour your egg mixture into that so that it kind of doesn't roll around the edges. And then you can take your fork and just start folding that together into a dough. And you know what? You can put herbs and spices and anything you want in it. I'm going to put a little sage, what goes good with chicken, guys? I think a little celery salt and a little cayenne pepper. What do you think? Lots of celery salt and a little cayenne, just for fun. Oh, coriander. Yeah, heck yeah, coriander. There we go. Okay. Now just fold that into a dough, and if you do it gently, it keeps kind of the lumps out of it, because you don't want a big lumpy batter. And you start incorporating more and more of the flour, and if you really wanted to be careful about this, you'd sift the flour before you started doing this, but I don't care. Now you start to kind of get a dough. See, you can kind of touch it now, and flour comes off on your hand, but it's not wet or sticky or anything like that. This could probably use a little more liquid in it, but before we do, I'm going to go and check this chicken. There we go. Yeah. Let's, another spoon. We can just flip this over. I want this chicken to be about most of the way cooked at the very least, if not completely cooked, before we throw it into the chicken pot pie, because the chicken pot pie does not cook necessarily long enough to cook raw chicken all the way through. It cooks long enough to finish off chicken that is already cooking. I mean, you could leave it in, but the problem is then you have to do the crust differently because it will burn if you're not careful. And it's not that I can't do that, it's just that it's time consuming. And I prefer to do it like this because this is a whole lot faster. Now, a little liquid. In this case, we're going to add some water, not too much, and a little salt. Oh, and some baking powder. Not a lot, just like a pinch or two. And remember, clean hands are happy hands. Essentially what we're making is paste. Now, when it gets to about the right consistency, here's the messy part. You're going to take some, let's get that milk off of there, it'll weld like glue. You're going to take some of your flour, put it out, and here's the part where some people like and some people hate. Go ahead and get a little hands-on with it. Turn our chicken down. Turn it out onto the cutting board and just kind of work it with your hands so that you can feel the consistency of it, and fold it, and then fold it, and it'll start to harden up to the point where you can kind of tell how thick it is, tell whether it's too thin, whether it's too thick. It needs to be about the same thickness as if you were making dumplings, because this is the exact same recipe for dumplings. The only difference is with dumplings you drop them in boiling chicken broth, and with chicken pot pie crust we're just going to line a pan with it and be done with it. Now I have a very nice French rolling pin somewhere. Oh, here it is. And I don't want to stick my flour-covered hand in the flour, in the clean flour, so get a little of this, line it up, and just roll it out. There we go. Ooh. Now see, we don't have enough flour. Just rub flour onto dough that is not covered enough, and it will have it roll right off, and you can incorporate it back into the rest of your dough. I cannot stress enough how important it is to have very, very clean hands for this part of the operation. Now look at here, we've got a nice, wide, flat crust. That'll be the bottom half, and I'll need to make another one for the top. But for right now, we need to get our pan. And I need to check on our chicken. So, let's wash our hands again. Always with the hand washing. And we stir the chicken. It's beautiful. It's very beautiful. And in a minute we're going to incorporate the vegetables and the chicken together and add some broth to make our sauce. But for right now, here's what we're going to do. We got a pan. We got some ham for the pan. And I'm almost out. There we go. Now, we'll set this down, and with the computer here, there's not a lot of room to work, so forgive me. But what we'll do is we will pick this up as well as we can. That's where the cutting board kind of comes in handy. Uh-oh. Because you can kind of use the plastic cutting board to pick this up. Slide this over and slide this off into here. Of course, I have not floured my cutting board well enough. So, well, yeah, I have. There it goes. Sweet. Uh-oh. And just ease the dough down into the pan, and it's going to fall in there because this is a really deep pan, and I tend to use shallower pans than this most times, but that is okay, because what we can do is once it kind of form fits the pan and it's done settling, we'll cut off the thicker bits like this, and we'll use it to patch up the thinner bits, because dough is malleable and it kind of sticks to itself, and so you can kind of play if you're careful and don't overdo. I think we could probably use a little reinforcement right there. Yeah, and some right there. Good, 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 good. Now here's the fun bit. I'm going to leave this right here for half a second. Move this flour out of the way, because we have got to brush this down with a little melted butter, and then we're going to bake it for a minute so that it sets up. That chicken's looking good, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to add our vegetables right on in there. Oh yeah, there we go. And this could stand a rinse, which is fortuitous because we need some water in there. So just rinse that right on out and stick it in there. Let that simmer real slow for a minute. And we'll cover it so those potatoes commence to getting done. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, brushing this with butter. We will get a small glass ramekin. And a pat of butter or two. And a brush. I would love to be the next cooking mama. By the way, hello Silver, how you doing? All right, get your butter, brush it up just a little bit, kind of keep the flour from being quite, you know, gummy. There we go. Now this little bad boy has got to go in the oven for a minute, because it needs to bake a little bit before we put all this juice into it, or it's going to turn into a glommy mess. So let me do that, and then we'll go and make the top for it. There we go, 380 ought to do it. I'll pull that out of there in about 10 minutes or so. In the meantime, I need to make more dough because we have the top to do, and it doesn't require as much, so we're going to make about half the amount. Because the previous amount, you know, it covered the whole inside of the pan. We just need a little bit more for the top. So what I think we ought to do is get just a little dollop of flour. Come on. There we go. And you know, if you make too much, you can always make dumplings. And I'll show you that in a minute because it'll give us something to do while the thing bakes in the oven, which is absolutely no fun to sit and watch. So yeah, what I'm gonna do is just go ahead, get a whole bunch of this in here, and we're gonna make a few dumplings after the fact. It'll be great. So, egg. Use 2 hands because I'm not using a second bowl to crack it in, and I don't want to get shells everywhere. Milk. There we go. I am out of cow milk. I am using goat milk. Milk is milk. It is wonderful. Little salt, little pepper. Once again, I was using coriander and celery salt for our seasoning today, so let's be consistent with our seasoning. Celery salt, it's wonderful. If you're just joining us, yes, I'm aware that the counter is a grand and glorious mess. It's supposed to be. So now we have our fork. We just mix all the dough together. We fold it gently, because if you beat anything with an egg in it too hard, it's going to toughen up quick. So folding it is better than whisking it real hard. So you can kind of start to see it take shape. I could probably use a little extra flour in there. So I'll go get some real quick. How's everybody doing tonight? I know I'm doing a terrible job of actually communicating with the chat, but I'm enjoying having y'all here, and I really appreciate you coming and spending time with me. It's a whole lot of fun, and I wanted to thank you for coming by and spending your evening cooking with me. Let's get our cutting board back. There we are. Now, let me wash my hands. Flour your cutting board. Oop. You will get flour everywhere doing this, but if you're careful, you can control just what kind of everywhere. And what I mean by that is, like, yes, it's all over the counter, but if you're careful, it's not going to go all over you or like the floor or places beyond. That's still a little sticky, so let's get a little more flour on top of it. Flouring your hands helps a lot with this. But see, I picked this up and it just falls apart. It means that we need to fold it more. We can't roll it yet, because all it's going to do if we roll it is stick to the rolling pin. So rolling implies what it says, you know, dust it up with flour, fold it in half, kind of push it down a little bit. Dust it with flour, fold it in half, push it down a bit. If you do this a whole bunch with the right recipe, you'll get phyllo dough and croissants, but we're not going that far with it tonight. And see, look, when I pick it up, it doesn't fall apart anymore. See? I mean, it just did, but I mean, it doesn't just crumble into a million pieces. That's because the binders in the egg are starting to kind of get it into a nice little ball of dough, which means we can spread out our flour here, push it down, flour the top of it, and I think I might have messed with it too much. See, it's getting a little bit rubbery, and that might be a little too too well kneaded for what we want, because we want it to be tender. So, there we go. Roll this bad boy out. And then we'll go check on yeah, see? Didn't flour the top well enough. And see, remember when I cleaned this off real well? And I'm sure that my countertop is clean and sanitary. That means that this flour I can put right back on here because there is nothing in it. It is clean, it is ready to eat, it is 100% sanitary. Even if it does lop off the edge of the cutting board just a little bit, which is why it is so important to keep your kitchen just sanitary and clean and spotless while you are doing things like this, because dough like this will pick up anything that you put on it, and you have to be sure that you're eating food and not countertop scunch. So again, can't stress enough, clean counters. All right, let's wash our hands, and then I'll check chat. Oh, actually, no, I'll check the chicken, and then I'll check the chat. Uh-oh. Okay, yeah, that's fine. There we go. Okay. Now I'll check chat after I finish washing my hands. There we go. And again, yes, I would love to be the next cooking mama. I've even got the ponytail. Oh, me. So let's check on this. Oh, good. Crust is ready. Now, because I'm not quite stupid enough to grab a hot glass pan with bare hands. See, it's starting to set up. It's not crispy or anything. We don't want to cook it. We just want to get it a little harder to the touch so that when we put this juice and stuff into it, it's not going to be, it's not going to turn back into glop on us. In fact, I'm going to put it in there for another second or two while we finish making the filling. Now, I have got a can of peas, which is wonderful in chicken pot pie. And unfortunately, I only have an electric can opener behind you, so it may get a little loud. Sorry. Hey, my eyes are up here. All right. We also don't want to put the peas or the corn in too early because they turn into mush. So we'll set those aside. And now, to turn the collection of potatoes and chicken and carrots and things into a filling as opposed to just a hash. Now, to do that, we're going to want a little bit of flour, a little bit of water, and a little bit of bouillon, which will be the equivalent of a little bit of broth, which you could also use. But in this case, we've got Weiler's chicken bouillon, which we will introduce about a tablespoon of into, or would if it hadn't. We'll need a knife. That's set in there long enough to turn into one big brick. It happens. All right, we will introduce about a tablespoon of that into our mixture. Yeah, I hear you. Okay. And then we need to put in a little water. There we go. best bit is we can put in a little flour just to thicken it up. Just a pinch will do it, see? And stir it in real good so it doesn't get lumpy or anything. You know, take the time to gently stir it around, and you can see the juice in the bottom already thickening up. And that's how it's supposed to do. See that? Between the potato starch in there and the extra flour, why, we need to add a little extra water to that, don't we? There we go. I'm going to leave it uncovered so it cooks down a little bit. Grab my towel. And let's check on our crust. That's the stuff right there. See? It's starting to harden up along the edges, and it'd probably flake off if we let it. Yeah, it's still, well, let's try this idea. You can still move it a little bit, but if I bent it any more than this, it would probably crack. It's starting to dry out and get a little firmer, and that's good. That's enough of a head start to where when we pour the rest of this stuff in it, it's not going to have a heart attack and turn back into glop on us. Now let me set this somewhere where we can keep an eye on it while we make the rest of our stuff. There we go. All we got to do is cook this down and then fill our pot pie with it. So let's turn that a little higher so that it simmers down a little faster. Or, if you're really jonesing for it to thicken up fast, let me show you. One more pinchful of flour. Now the one thing that I have been neglecting over here is to add seasonings to it as we go. And between all of the flour and all of the water and all of the non-flavorful things we've been adding to it, we might want to check and see if it needs any seasoning. So now is the time to carefully, without burning ourselves, taste it. Oh yeah, perfect. Well, almost perfect. I want more celery salt in it. And a little coriander, because I like coriander. If I had some chervil, that would be wonderful. But I don't. And I'm going to pout about it. Little black pepper. Because black pepper is always good. And a little salt. Because it's wintertime. And I'll tell you, in wintertime, I am like a deer. If you give me a brick of salt, I will sit there and lick it. If you gave me one of those sea salt lamps, by the time winter was over, I would have it down to a little smooth orb. And I know that sounds disgusting, but when it gets cold, I crave salt. All right, doesn't that look nice? The mushrooms are starting to soften up. Oh, that is perfect! That is perfect! Yes! Okay. So, here's what we're going to do. Since I have too many pots and pans, I'm going to move this one over here for a second. Move this one over here, and I want you guys to see the chicken pot pie as we fill it. So let's grab the thing here. Actually, this is not really made for stovetop, so we'll set this below it so it doesn't get damaged. Because I want you guys to be able to see this, but I don't want to damage my nice anchorwood pan. So real quick, set that there. Put in the filling. Yum. Move it around. But you know what we've forgotten, don't you? The corn and the peas. There we go. Now it's a little full because I forgot to stir them in, but if you're very careful, that doesn't matter. You just kind of toss it around. Don't go too deep down in there because you don't want to be tearing the bottom of your crust up. And it's going to be fine. It'll get everywhere, and you know, when you bake it, there's going to be a little something in there for everybody. Just make sure that it's moved around pretty good. And away we go. All right, look at that. Oh, cutting into that's going to be a joy. I even think not that much water, but just a little juice in it, just for fun. Okay, now has come the time to cover this bad boy back up. So let's bring it over here and set it on a trivet so as not to burn up the... Actually, let me show you a trick. I don't want to set my nice cloth trivet on all this flour here, but I don't want to I think something happened with the stream just now. Woo! Everyone see me? Huh. Well. Alright, so, just in case, set this down over top of it. Keep it clean. Set this down. And put this on top of your trivet. Put this over this. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. And don't do that. Cover up your pot pie. And there you go. Look at that. Now, I'm going to cut the edges off of this and make dumplings out of it. So, let's get us a knife. Cut the edges off. Hang on to those. There we go. Set those over there for now. Then just tuck our edges on. You know, just kind of make sure that everything's well covered. Everything is pushed down. Everything is sealed up. Of course, I tell you, the minute this starts boiling and bubbling in there, any place where you've kind of sealed it up will still start leaking glop. And it's wonderful. Take that, seal that up a little bit. There you go. Now, into the oven it goes. After I find my oven mitts. There we go. Now, in a minute, I am going to probably go and get a couple of eggs or butter and brush the top of that with them, but it doesn't need it just yet. What I am going to do is prep over there so that you guys can see me making dumplings. So what we need to do is get us some water. And it's okay to use the pan that had the chicken broth in it, because we're making more. Now, we'll get it good and hot, and we'll add a little bit of, let's see, Noisy! Hey! How's it going? Hi! And I heard someone else do something, and I don't know what the notification was, but someone hosted or subscribed or something, and I heard a ding over there. So thank you for whatever made the little chime tone over there. I think it was a host, and I think it was probably Noisy. Thank you so much. I gotta put chicken in the thing, but hi everybody. Well, and of course my bouillon has solidified a little bit. Again, about a tablespoon or two. There you go. Now when that starts boiling, we will drop in our dumplings. Huh. That's weird because on my screen here I see OBS, but it's like frozen. I see my shoulder from like 10 minutes ago. But you guys are in the chat fine, and I see like the screen moving over there fine. So if you guys can hear me and you can see me, we're just going to roll with it for the evening, and I'll chat with you over there as we go. For right now, we're going to get this going. And if you'll recall, we have a grand and glorious mess going over here, and the best part about it is little balls of dough, which we are going to roll out. And I hope you guys can see this. We are going to roll those out, and we are going to cut them up with a little fluted pie wheel. There we go. And unfortunately, I don't have enough dough to make a whole lot of dumplings. But then again, there's only me, so I don't need a whole lot of dumplings. I have way more broth over there than I need for making this tiny little amount of chicken and dumplings. But you cut it with a nice little fluted pie wheel. And, well, that's kind of silly. There we go. That'll give us 10 dumplings. And I'll be right back. Oh good, it's starting to boil. So all we do is we take these. Beautiful, aren't they? And we load them up on our hand. We can get a lot of them going. There we go. And we're just going to go huck them in the broth over here real quick. There's one. There's two. There's three. There's four. There's five. There's six. Now, normally when you do this, you want to have like some chicken in there and some more broth and some other goodies in there. You don't just have, you know, clear chicken broth. Chicken and dumplings is usually made with little pieces of wonderful chicken, like we just stuck in the chicken pot pie. But this is kind of an afterthought, and I'm just kind of showing you the process of making the dumplings. So bear with me here, because these are still going to be really, really good. They're going to soak up the flavor from that chicken broth. And if I had like a whole bunch of them, it'd be great. But I've only got 10, and I'm only doing it for demonstration purposes because I had the dough and I've already made the mess. So, you know, why not? Alrighty. So later tonight, you're putting your setup back in your office, huh, Noisy? That'll be cool. I remember you had it out on the couch when Jon Snow and who was it? KJ Styles, I think, that came by. That was an awesome stream, man. By the way, guys, Noisy is an awesome streamer. Everyone here probably already knows Noisy because you know me from Noisy. But just in case you don't, go check him out, subscribe. It's amazing to watch him play video games. It's always fun and hilarious. And I don't know if Caster Call works in my channel or not, but someone please feel free to throw out a Caster Call for Noisy. And I'm going to check on these dumplings. Oh yeah, they're starting to look like dumplings. Let me check on this chicken pot pie. Yeah. Those dumplings are really starting to cook up, and what I'm going to do is put them in a little bowl with some of the broth and set them aside for me to eat while we clean up and finish with this chicken pot pie. Speaking of the chicken pot pie and Noisy, thank you for the idea the other day. You're the one that started all this. There we go. Yeah, that can go in here. While we wait, we'll just get rid of all this flour. Again, handy way to get rid of a bunch of flour and things on your counter is to put the cutting board under the lip of the counter. Calendar, counter, same thing. And just... Oh, I have not pointed the laptop down, nor do I need to be grabbing it now, but you guys can pretty much guess at the procedure going on here. All of our excess flour that needs to be thrown away, and I'll be right back. There we go. Now, run some water in this to make sure that it doesn't turn into glue. And actually, it's a good idea if you stir it around a little bit and kind of wipe it down because it's got egg and flour, which is essentially a great recipe for paste. And if you let it set up, it's going to be a chore to get it out of here. Good hot water, scrape down your bowl, melt it all down. And don't let too much of it go down the sink. The reason I'm washing it off in the sink is because I only have little bits and bobs because I've done this 100 times before. If you have a big wad of this in the bowl, do not do that. Scrape it out into the trash can first, or you're going to clog up your sink. Yeah, that's a little too hot. Okay, those dumplings are about ready. So I'm going to put them in a bowl as soon as I finish getting my countertop cleaned off. A little aside, see this pie wheel here? This is not my grandmother's, but it's identical to the one that she used to use when she made chicken and dumplings for us when we were kids. Of course, my grandmother passed away in 1990, and I took forever to figure out how to make chicken and dumplings the way she does. And my problem was I was overcomplicating it. I tried to put different things in it and, adjust ratios of herbs and spices and things like that. And I asked my dad at one point, kind of what the secret was. And he said, well, your grandmother used to use all the spices. That means that she would use salt and pepper. And I remember that my grandma had a spice cabinet. I remember every spice she had in it. But apparently she never used them. Salt and pepper were just kind of the mainstays. So that said, the thing that you guys just saw with the egg and the milk and the salt and the pepper and the flour, that would have been the recipe where I put in like the celery salt and the coriander. That's extra. That does not factor into my grandma's recipe, but other than that, the rest of it's pretty much identical. So if you want to make this yourself, that'd be a good idea. I know I moved that off there for a reason, but oh yeah, we need to get the dumplings out of the way and brush the top of that down with some butter real quick because we want it to be pretty. So again, glass ramekin, butter. Microwave. Then we get our chicken pot pie out of the oven for half a second. You guys probably can't see me. Let me fix that. There we go. Now, yeah, you notice that the top of this thing is still a little floury looking. Well, that's fine, but we want it to look nice when it finishes cooking. So, that's where this comes in. We're going to brush it down with a little butter. That'll make it nice and shiny. It'll make it pleasant to look at. It'll make it tasty. And I'll tell you, when you do a butter wash or an egg wash on something like this, another great thing to do is to season it then, because it will help it stick. And when that butter dries up in the oven and soaks into it, that salt will still stick on the top, and when you cut into it, it won't just roll off. It'll be on there. Now here's our dumplings, which I will put in a bowl in a second. But first, let's check the chat. That's right, it was KJ Styles. Oop, sorry. Moving the camera. All right, so let's test this dumpling here real quick, because we want to see if it came out the way it should. Now, a proper dumpling, if you can see that, and I'll bring it over because this camera is a little bit better. A proper dumpling should have a nice fluted edge, a good texture. You can see where it's done all the way through, and you can see where the middle is just a little bit chewier than the outside. It's perfectly done. The edge is nice, and you can even see kind of where it's plumped up on the outside as it cooked, where the outside, because it came in contact with the broth first, has kind of swollen up in relation to the stuff in the middle. So it should be soft, it should be chewy, it should be fluffy and wonderful. Let's find out. That's perfect. That is absolutely perfect. It could have gone a little longer, but that is exactly what I wanted. I'm going to turn the rest of these on for a minute, because if it still has a little bit of a floury taste to it when you eat it, it means that you did not cook it long enough. And I have not. But of course, that's not the usual way that I cook dumplings. It would have little pieces of chicken in it, and the broth would be seasoned a little better, and I wouldn't just be doing it as an afterthought. I would have made a great big batch of them, and you would see them just kind of full and swimming in there. You wouldn't be able to see the broth. It'd be just a bunch of dumplings boiling around. So that said, that's how it should be done properly. But for tonight, this is what we got, folks. But after I cook them for another minute, I'm going to eat them while we wait for the chicken pot pie to come out. But first, let's see what you guys are up to. Not much, apparently, but I'm glad you're here and I'm glad you're lurking. I need more salt. I need more lots of things. I made a grocery list today, and I went to the grocery and forgot my list and still don't have those things. But that's okay. If you guys don't mind sticking with me while we clean up the kitchen, because that's always an important part of cooking, is cleaning up the kitchen, although we don't like it, we're going to get to see the chicken pot pie when it comes out of the oven, hopefully here in a bit. In the meantime, if you guys want to ask questions or introduce any fellow streamers or make any observations or anything, just feel free to chat in the chat, and I'll drop in and see what you're up to. We're going to put what's left of my butter away and load up our stuff in the dishwasher here. Give us a sec. I know this is exactly what you guys signed on for, watching a stream of someone loading up a dishwasher, but That said, I have seen less entertaining things on the internet. And if you don't believe me, why, I can send you to a site that talks about different database indexing methods, and you'll come running back to watch me load the dishwasher. In all seriousness, guys, I really do enjoy cooking, and this stage of the game on a messy dish like this is not all that entertaining. But it gives you something to do if you're going to do this while you're waiting for the oven to finish. That said, I'm sorry that it really isn't that fun to watch, nor can you really learn anything watching someone clean up unless you've never cleaned before. Which I would not put out of the realm of possibility for some people, but that aside, we're almost done here, and those dumplings are looking real good, so I can't wait for those. Okay. You know, I've noticed that cooking on stream takes longer and makes a much bigger mess than just cooking. But I really enjoy it, and it is a lot of fun. I could stress again the need for keeping a sanitary kitchen, but you guys have heard it like 7,426 times this stream, so I won't bother you with it again. Although, it's a good thing to remember, and it's a good thing to repeat. So, we will wash this. I tell you what I do like having in the kitchen for things just like this is a nice silicone brush, because it's great for getting butter or egg wash or any other kind of thing that you need to brush onto something, barbecue sauce. It makes it a lot easier, and silicone is real easy to wash off. So these dumplings look like they're about ready. So I'm going to switch them off and put them in a bowl here in a second, and then I'll eat them. But meantime, we'll get this dishwasher closed up, and then hopefully I'll be able to show you something nice with this pot pie. Although I'm not sure it's going to be done just yet, but I kind of wish the dumplings had taken long. You know, I kind of wish what I'd done is made a whole pot of the dumplings, because that would have actually taken longer and probably would have filled the time nicely for the pot pie to finish. But if I had done that, I would have an entire pot of chicken and dumplings and an entire chicken pot pie. And if you guys have not looked at me, I love food, but I can't hold a whole lot of it at once. All right, these things look absolutely lovely. So what I'm going to do is pour them in a bowl and wash out my pan real quick. I do like washing out a pan while it is hot, because it helps keep things from sticking to it, because things tend to stick as they cool. And so you can save yourself a lot of time and a lot of trouble washing off a pan when it is fresh off the stove and still nice and blazing hot. Now, what you don't want to do is splash water from it back onto your hand or your arm or your skin, because, well, it hurts. But that said, this is so much easier than letting it soak and scraping it and trying to deal with that and then putting it in the dishwasher and fiddle farting around with it 6 ways to Sunday. It's dry, it's clean, it's done. And if you'll recall, it had glop welded to the edges 5 seconds ago. There we go. Well, you know, guys, we have got fresh dumplings, and I'm gonna eat one here while we give this chicken pot pie time to cook. Let me check chat first and see what you guys are up to. And again, not much, but again, that's absolutely fine. Let's see. I can see the steam coming off of that. I'm gonna let that cool a second, but we'll see how these came out. Now look at that. That's exactly what those are supposed to look like. They're firm yet soft and chewy. Oh yeah, yeah. That is exactly what that's supposed to taste like. Oh yeah. So that being said, wooden rolling pins are kind of a pain in the ass to clean. Let me show you here. Is that it? Yeah. Be careful with them. Don't use abrasives or scrapers or anything like that, because usually these have a smooth finish on them, and if you scratch it, it gives places for flour and dough to stick, and then it becomes harder and harder and harder to clean it every subsequent time that you do. And if you get stuff that's really, really stuck to it, a nice soft plastic scraper will take it off without too much ado, and without scratching the surface too bad. Just kind of be careful about how hard you push, and it'll be all right. There we go. And I tend not to use a lot of soap on wooden things that don't have a finish or a gloss, because soap will get in it, and then everything you make the next 3 meals will taste like palm olive. There we go. Good as new. My nice, clean Vic Firth French style rolling pin. No kitchen should be without one. Not necessarily any of those specifications or brand, but a rolling pin is always nice to have. You guys are probably used to seeing one that looks a little more like this, although if this one looks strange, it's because it's for making springly cookies. But a rolling pin that actually, you know, rolls on a spindle, most of you are familiar with. The French style one is a lot of fun because it's simple, it's easy to clean, and it doesn't take up much room, which in my kitchen is a plus. So, let's check on our chicken pot pie real quick. I don't have an oven cam just yet, and one of these days I'm gonna figure that out. But oh yeah, look at that. That's starting to swell up and cook, but it ain't done yet. So you guys have 2 choices. One, stick around and I will continue to yammer while I clean up the kitchen and occasionally eat one of my remaining 6 dumplings. And then I'll show you the chicken pot pie at the end of it and then throw the host over to somebody. Or, you know, if you guys want to take a little break and go get your own dinner, well, I will be right here while you do. But in the meantime, I am going to take advantage of the time that it's going to take this to cook to clean my kitchen so that I don't have to do it later, because after this I've got work to do. So let me commence to doing that, and I will chatter with you while I do. Gonna put our flour away. Trivet goes back. And water. We'll put this corn back in the fridge. Of course, we've torn the cellophane on it, so more cellophane. Oh, by the way, Shame, if you're still listening, I noticed that you mentioned that you needed a picture of me for something. Well, Noisy has 2 different pictures depending on the kind you're looking for. I think they're still in his photos and art car, and The only justification I can give for either of them is that I was being an A1 smartass in response to something that they said on their streams. That said, let's see what's going on here. A picture of me for reference. Well, here, get my good side. I don't know what kind of reference. Don't get me wrong. I like it when people take my picture. But now you've got me curious. There we go. We'll just... Oh, another thing. These things, once you get done making dumplings, there will be dough welded to your formica, your countertop. Well, you might have granite or something like that. Either way, dough welded to it. Bad thing. This takes it off easily without scratching or damaging the surface, which is nice because, you know, if you invest in a countertop, you want it to last a good long time. And you want to keep it nice. There you go. All right. That's better. I'm going to come check on you guys in a second. But first, get that over here. No, I'm not either, Noisy. I know for a fact that you probably are in better shape, you know, strength training wise than me, but that's because I've slacked off forever and ever and ever. You know that the chicken pot pie is starting to get done when you smell the air and that crust starts to kind of smell like crust. It smells almost like a cracker crust. And it's wonderful. But you can kind of get a whiff of it and tell that you need to go and check on it. And it's looking pretty good. I think another 5 or 6 minutes and we might be able to pull this thing out of the oven. Yeah, I need to get to the gym real bad myself. I mean, the long hair and the slight build aside, you know, I need to start doing some push-ups, because if I start getting movies too, it's going to send the wrong image to people. And don't worry, Shame, I'll send it to you in PM in Discord or something. I'll get that done later. Well, here in just a little bit. Actually, this, always swap out towels. Now, I haven't announced it or anything, but I've been using 2 or 3 towels while we've been going along. This one is about had it, so always swap out towels. Always use clean, fresh towels. It's okay if they're damp, but if they've got glop on them or egg or anything like that, get rid of them. Especially when you're doing something like this. Now, if it's just vegetables or something like that, and it's got a little piece of carrot on it, ooh, you know, you can keep doing that. But, you know, things like chicken, egg, meat, fish, stuff that, you know, can cross-contaminate other food. You want to make sure that stuff like that doesn't touch. Vegetables does not touch. Finished dishes does not touch. Like fruit or vegetables you will eat raw. You don't want any uncooked thing that could have bacteria or something on it touching a finished product or a product that you are not about to cook. So that being said, swap out your towels on a fairly regular basis and you will be good. That said, I'm running out of dumplings and I'm getting sad. Because I'm enjoying those. Let's see. Dish pods. Yay! Let's see. I can probably fit a few more things into the dishwasher. If I finish my dumplings, I'll probably be able to get this in there. Yeah. These, you know, for something that I did as a flip, just to show you guys how to do it, these came out incredibly well. I'm pretty chuffed about it. All right. Enough of that. Let me clean up my sink real quick, and by the time I finish, this pot pie should be ready to come out of the oven, and I can show it to you guys, and we'll cut into it. Yeah. Put my headband over there. I don't know why I took my ponytail down. I wasn't thinking, and now my hair's everywhere in my face. Which I don't mind if I'm not cooking, but if you're working, you kind of want it back. That said, again, with the cleanliness thing, but I mean, you know, since this is supposed to be instructive, I always like to keep the sink good and clean in case you're washing fruit or vegetables in it for the purpose of eating them. And if you have had something in your sink, or have just been washing dishes, and there's anything in there that, you know, you don't want to eat, scrub it out real good. Scrub it out as if you were going to prepare something to eat in it next. Because you may not be going to, but you don't have to worry about it. You can kind of use your sink at any time for anything that you want to do with it. Yeah, except be careful how hot you get the water. There we go. All right, about 1 more minute on this, and I can show you guys this chicken pot pie. You know, the cool thing about this faucet, I installed it myself. Some years ago, our faucet broke, and Lowe's is just right next door, so I walked down there, we picked out a faucet, and I installed it. And it hasn't broken yet, so I must have done something right. Let's see here. Yeah. Something to dry out the sink with. Okay, I do smell the chicken pot pie, and it smells done. So, unfortunately, I go by food's appearance and smell and texture and things like that to tell when it's done. So, if you were hoping for someone that says, bake exactly for 45 minutes and 13 seconds, that's not me. Because depending on your elevation, what the barometer says, what the temperature is outside, how your oven works, whether you're using gas or electric or convection, things take different amounts of time to cook in different kitchens. So, whereas you can kind of get a general idea about how long something should take, nothing ever cooks the exact same amount of time in every kitchen on the planet. So, if I'm ever not specific, it's basically because cooking isn't always specific. Now let's see what we got here. I think it is time to look at this pot pie. So let's open this bad boy up. Oh, there goes the alarm. Yeah, let's open this bad boy up for you here. Oh, look at that. That is exactly what I wanted to see. Turn the oven off here real quick. Look at that. Now, I could probably cut into this, but it'll be way too hot. So I'm going to turn it around here and let you guys see it all bubbling out the edges. And then I'll try and cut into it. But let me show you a few things here. while I can get it. Look at the sides. Look down into the sides of the thing because it's glass. You can see where the crust is toasted well all the way down. It is done. It's finished. And because the filling was finished before we even put it in the pot pie, we don't have to worry about, you know, did the chicken get cooked all the way through? Are the potatoes soft? This, that, and the other. Of course they are. They were before we ever put them in the pie. So what we're worried about is to check the bottom of the thing, and I don't know if you can see it or not, and I don't want to tilt it so all the juice runs out, but the bottom and the sides of the pie are the important part. The crust, when the crust is done, the pie is done. And in this case, the crust is done, so the pie is done. That said, I bet you that you guys would like to see me cut into it. So that's what we're going to do. Although, what I typically do with these, again, is to let them cool and coagulate a little bit, because as they cool, the filling kind of solidifies a little bit, and it gets to be a little more easily dealt with as you partition it and put pieces of it on a plate. But the... Excuse me, I'm a little far away from this thing. But the thing here is that will take forever for it to cool down, and I have imposed upon you enough waiting for this while I clean my kitchen, so we're going to cut into it right now. As soon as I find an appropriate knife, because I think I dirtied every knife in my house showing you guys how to make this. No, seriously, where's my knife? That's a cooking knife. You know what? This one will do. Alright. Let's turn this around so you guys get the good side. Alrighty. There we go. There's the side that's leaking all the glop, which is the best part. Okay, since I can't see what's going on with this thing, I'm going to point you guys in my general direction. Woo! And into it we cut. There we go. Look how nice that cuts. And you can tell that I did not get the top crust pinched to the bottom crust well, because you can see it kind of lifting off a little bit like a cracker. Speaking of like a cracker, look at that. Look at that. That's the crust that just flaked off. It's like a savory version of a pie crust. It's wonderful. Let's get back to cutting this thing. There we go. Now the question is, can I get this out of here without getting it everywhere? Because usually I use a shallower, wider pan. In this case, I thought this would look really pretty, and it does. But it might be a little more difficult to get food out of. So, we will grab us a couple of spatulas. Yeah. And try and lift this out of here without incident. Well, so much for without incident, but there we go. Oop. I've lost my filling. There we go. Well, see, and that's why I usually wait for it to cool, because see, it runs everywhere if you don't. However, I don't care, because I'm hungry and I'm really going to enjoy eating this. But I'm going to scoop it out to show you, look. The bottom right there. See how the crust is still solid. It has not turned back into glop from having all the filling in it. And that is part of what I wanted to show you right there. See the bottom of the crust? It has the shape of the pan still because we cooked it before we put the filling in. And that's the important bit right there. See that it holds its shape. Again, should have let it cool before I cut into it, but this is a show, not me just cooking. So, let me put this over here and plate this up. Look at that. What do you think? I want to eat this. How about you? Well, and if any of you are close by Cincinnati, feel free to drop on by, because I would certainly love to have dinner guests. But that being said, that's how you make a chicken pot pie. Now, I'm going to go check on chat real quick, see what you guys are up to, find someone to throw a host over to, and after that, I'm going to go eat my food, because the chicken pot pie is ready. I still have 2 dumplings left, one after this one, and after that I've got work to do this evening. But it's been a pleasure hanging out with you guys. Let's see what you're up to, and then I'll wrap this up. You guys are making this really, really easy on me. So if nobody has any questions, I want to wish you guys a wonderful and happy evening. Thank you so much for coming by and seeing me. Shane, I'll remember to get you that picture you've requested. And Noisy, thank you. You gave me the idea to do this during your last stream, and it was a great idea. I'm going to eat on this for 3-4 days, so it's going to be great. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for stopping by. I'm going to throw over the stream, I think, to Ellie B, because it looks like she's streaming right now. And so yeah, I guess Ellie B, we're going to go raid her. Well, raid's a rather extravagant word. I'm going to throw the host over to her, and you guys should probably go say hi. In the meantime, have a great evening. Thanks a bunch.